to think 80-year-olds were old. I don't think so anymore. I don't think so at all. Not at all. But I thought it would be great if I could preach a sermon from one octogenarian to another. We are unique at Trinity, one of the few congregations, maybe the only one in all of Synod, made up of almost entirely of retirees. We really have not much any Sunday school here, except sometimes grandchildren come. And so today, I'd like to speak to all of you who are retirees, all of you octogenarians. But the millennials have nothing over you. You are indeed what I consider the amazing grays. And so today when I ask and say who we are, and I say we are the, I'd like you to answer who you are, the amazing grays. Let's try it. We are the, come on, the millennials will outdo you that in no time. Who are you? There you go. Then I was also asked, my octogenarian time, what is the one passage or the one theme that could encompass 50 years of ministry? In fact, all of ministry. And I'll share that with you at the conclusion this morning. But I want to begin this morning with the life of Moses. I won't go through the baby Moses. We know that story. But I'm going to fast forward ahead when Moses is 40 years old and a member of the royal household. He also knew who his heritage was, that he was a Hebrew. Moses witnessed one of the Hebrews being beaten by one of the palace guards. And so Moses then, in reaction, violently attacked that guard and killed him. Realized what he had done. And even though he was a member of the palace, he now was a wanted man. And he had to flee for his life. But not only Moses, but his sister, his brother, the rest of his family, they had to flee into the wilderness, up into the hills, where they stayed. Fugitives from the law, where if he returned to Egypt, a wanted man, he'd be arrested and he'd be executed, no doubt about it. And so that's where he remained for 40 years. When he was an octogenarian, when he was 80 years old, God comes to Moses and says, I want you to come back down to Egypt. And he wants to become the great emancipator of the children of Israel. I want you to lead the children of Israel out of bondage and to be free. Moses heard that from God, who was in a burning bush, a bush that was burning, that was not consumed, and a voice was coming from that bush. Now I'm telling you, if any of us would look at a bush burning and it's not consumed, and a powerful voice comes out of it telling us to do something, I think I'll do it. I ain't going to argue. But Moses, a good Jew, argued with God. And he said, no, didn't think that would be a good idea. He had a lot of reasons why not to go down to Egypt. One, he was old. What can an old person do anymore? Then he said, well, I have a speech impediment. Moses could not speak. He was a stuttering problem, and surely that was not fit to be a leader. And then finally, the big elephant in the room was, he was a wanted man. Wanted for murder. That's no small thing. So this guy gets someone else to go down. And that says, you will go down to Egypt. And so Moses wrestled and wrestled with that. And finally, he agreed, okay, in spite of being his age, in spite of the fact that he stuttered and no one would understand him, in spite of the fact that he was a wanted man, he would go. And he ready to go to prison. It was interesting on how we do decisions from the lesson that Moses received. Because God waited until he made his decision out of faith. And he went. No matter what the consequences, he went. He knew God would be there. That God revealed to Moses, all your fears are for naught. They're nothing more than paper tigers. For your age has nothing to do with it. The fact that you stutter is not going to be a problem with your brother. And now guess what? All those who wanted to execute you, to throw you in prison, they're all dead. And there's no more wanted posters anywhere in Egypt with Moses' picture, dead or alive, on it. These people are all gone. Now go. I think it's interesting for us as we learn how to make decisions in our lives throughout the many years we've had, that we find, I know some people think, well, I need to know what God wants me to do. It doesn't work that way. Or some would say, I would need to cast out a fleece and know what God wants me to do. You didn't tell Moses. You make your decision, you base it the best that you can, and you go by faith, knowing this, that God is going to be there, whatever way you took. So I learned this in the ministry, as we all do in the pastor, whereas when we receive our first call, usually we go sight unseen, that's pretty well set for us. But after that, we can begin to negotiate or look at the call. And that's when I learned the lesson that after I had been to Minnesota, left Illinois to Minnesota, sight unseen, for my dad taught me that way in his ministry. You just pray about the call. He would never go to look at where he was going to go. He went on faith to that call, knowing God was going to be there with his ministry. And so it was also, I received 4 calls simultaneously within a month, and not counting the call that I had. That's 5 calls. It really drove me nuts. And it was a pastor who finally told me, he said, Paul, it won't matter. You pray about it, you make your decision. Know this, that no matter what you decide, God will be there waiting for you. You may have difficulty here, you have a different problem there, but God is going to be with you. You go knowing in faith God is with you. And so that's what we do. Now, because we are who are we? Oh, you're pathetic. Come on, who are we? The Amazing Grace. Because of that, 64% of all of the major accomplishments in this world of ours was done by people who are over the age of 60 in retirement years. And many examples I could give you, but I'm not going to give you all, so don't go run up and you forgot this guy, so I forgot that one. You forgot a lot of them because it's too long. But I just share a couple of them. Kant, at age 74, wrote his Anthropology. Verdi, at age 74, wrote his Othello, and at age 80, wrote Falstaff. We have Oliver Wendell Holmes, who wrote at 79 Over the Teacup. And we have Cato, who began to study Greek for the first time at age 80. Get started, okay? Come on. And so Goethe, at age 80, completed his masterpiece of Faust. We see that Tennyson, at 83, wrote Crossing the Bar. But I want to go now into this congregation. These are wonderful people here at Trinity, retirees. And look what they've accomplished. A few years ago, when I was helping Pastor Mark, I gave private communion to a number of people. One was a lady who was in her early 80s, in a wheelchair. What made her unique was she liked to play games, and she had a partner. And Dorothy Trainer, who is now Marilyn Thornley, is sainted. She was a member of our church here for many years. But Dorothy Trainer is still a very active member of this church, and she was in her 90s. She would join her for games every week, and they had a third partner, and she was 105. So you have the 80-year-old, a 90-year-old, and a 105, all getting together, still having a good time, exercising the mind, keeping alert, and that's good. Not only did Dorothy Trainer come to church now regularly, she also goes to the Thursday morning Bible class. That's led by another Deb Thompson, who's well into her 80s. I shouldn't give her age out. She's still young. She's sitting over here, and I'll get in trouble. But nonetheless, she comes all the way from the other side of Ocala to conduct the Bible class on Thursday morning. This Bible class is nothing to sleep through. You need to work. You need to do homework on it. She's a stickler on that. He's a good old word. But anyway, I have Midge Dickerson as well as a favorite person of mine. Love to joke with her. Midge, at 95, still drives all by herself her big old Buick to church every Sunday, leaves it out front. You guys park it, and she drives it here and back home again. Midge Dickerson, in her 90s, went on a cruise all by herself. Let's get moving. We are the Amazing Grace. We're not going to be sitting down here and just in a rocking chair. No, not at all. Lyle and Mary Stodaker, we saw last week, had their 70th wedding anniversary this past week. Always Lyle, they're usually in the first service, sitting up in the corner up here because Lyle tends to misbehave, and I want him to sit in that corner so I can chastise him. He's 93, his bride is 92. Tried to buy an anniversary card at Hallmark for a 70th anniversary. They kind of blank stared at him. No, we've got him here in Trinity, that's for sure. Then we have Bob and Kathy Edenhofer. Bob, who chased druggies in New York his whole profession as a detective, came down here, very docile person. You would never realize that. He and Kathy designed all of this furniture up here and hand-carved it beautifully and done indeed. We have two, our own Gail